Yeah, well, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess we're both kind of probably a little out of it. I was telling you, yeah, I've been in the heat, so I'm just like, I had to make myself a coffee and everything because I'm just,
Right. Oh my gosh. And this is one of your first days off, right?
yeah, yeah. So like I just got done working like a 16-day stretch. I mean, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
complaining. I mean, like, well, I am, but but like it's just more like, yeah, like the way so how my schedule sometimes works. So I'm part time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty much working full time hours. Just with things going on at work, I can't. It's all confidential.
Hmm.
But with me working a lot more hours, I'm happy with it. But the way it's all played out. That's why
Yeah.
I'm day stretch. So a lot of them are like midnights. So it
Mhm.
doesn't feel like I'm working every day, but I am.
Right.
So those added in, and then just how my hours went. Like I might work. It might start off with like I was working from Wednesday and then until now. So
Right.
like, it would be like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I might just happen to be scheduled the Monday. And then
Right.
one day I wasn't supposed to work, but I took the shift because it was just a nice little shift. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. And
Right.
I'm starting to kind of question whether I should have took it or not, but it's all good. And then we had Canada Day, right? And of
Right.
course, I'm part time. I'm gonna work it. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, no, I'm happy. But yeah, I'm glad to be off now. So,
Yeah. Everybody needs a break.
oh,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
I've had a busy day too. Like I finally kicked off my first kettlebell course. So that started today, which is really good. And then we're starting marketing and branding for my gym. So I had the crew down there and they were taking all their pictures and getting all the stuff ready to launch the website and everything. So I had that. So it's been a busy day, but a good day.
Oh, that's good. And you said that like you're done with the school until September now, or
Exactly. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. So go ahead.
yeah. Well, so actually, now that reminds me. So I was gonna ask you. I might have asked you last time. Because you're in Alberta, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Alberta. Okay. So, does school normally start right in September, like everywhere else in Canada?
Oh yeah, pretty much. So typically we've always been like the after Labor Day start, which I think is probably typical for most
Yeah.
places. This year, just the way that the calendar had to work and everything for the amount of days that we had to fit in, I think we start like right before, which is like really unusual for us, but we're all waiting. August 1st is the day that the education minister is going to lay out what will actually happen for the fall. So we're also kind of waiting to see if we're going to be back blended, if we're going to be fully like a near normal return, which I'm hoping for. So we're just kind of waiting. August 1st is the big day.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that'll kind of determine where school
yeah,
systems going stand, right?
exactly. And that was this, because we had talked before and no, COVID had already hit, hadn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
it did. But it was
yeah,
like I think it was like maybe the first month when it
it might,
started, and I kind of talked about why I was, kind of
yeah,
revamping my whole podcast uh,
right.
gig, right? So,
Yeah. And after going through that period of time in schools, being like just online learning, I I really, really hope for a near normal return because it's just too weird without the kids. Like it just doesn't feel anything close to normal at all. And I know for families too, it can be super difficult. Like even for me trying to, like as an educator, educate my kids, work from home sometimes be at the school. Like it was just so different. And I'm just hoping that everything's as close to normal as possible.
so how did you manage the like everything going? Like, okay, so obviously, I think when did they close the schools? I think it was
I feel like it was right after Easter. Was it after Easter? Before I no, it was before, wasn't it?
I think it was. So I think what happened was that week before they were talking about it, and then they had March break,
Yeah.
and then at least for us, like in Ontario, like Doug Ford in Ontario, he was talking about like, oh, we're thinking
Hmm.
about it. Well, we're gonna let March break pass, and then
Yeah.
and then I think after that, that's when it kind of was official. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm remembering because we actually had Easter break like during Easter. So it was
Yeah.
ahead of yours, like after yours. So we actually down before that, and then had like kind of a week off right with Easter, and then just continued on that way. So it's been a long stretch, but I don't know. I just still can't believe that it happened. Like, it still feels like it's a strange thing that we were going through. And I honestly felt so grateful for the end of the school year, because I just felt like we had to, let's just wrap it up, right? Like, we've done the best that we could. I feel like my teachers did a great job in connecting with kids and families and stuff, but I feel like everybody needed to just be done, be done for a little bit.
No, and that's like, and that's the thing, like, whether, because I know like things were kind of getting better in Canada as the summer months were progressing, and they were talks like, should we bring the kids back to school? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, it would be good for like, maybe the older kids, especially the grade 12s that want to graduate and have that experience going to the prom, and even then that really sucked for the kids. But I mean, besides that, it was about a month, and it's like, what's the point? I mean, why are we, is it worth having the kids go to school for maybe a month? I mean, because even in June, you're not going to school the whole month of June. So 3 weeks, why try to put more people at risk? Let's just put the numbers down for summer. So in return, fall, then the kids can go back to school. We'll have everything ready for the kids to be in school for that. So
totally,
I think that was a good option for sure.
I think too. And I know that out here, the minister has said too that depending on what the regions look like, there could be some varied decisions, right, in terms of what it will look like. And where I am at, it's been very good. Like, we've had, I think, one case, so it's been like nothing, right? So I do really feel like unless something goes sideways, our area at least should be pretty much close to near normal. I'm hoping. Return.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, I even when everything was getting crazy and everything was spreading, I don't think the West really got hit that hard. I mean, all the provinces out that way, they really didn't get hit hard. I mean, obviously there was cases, but Ontario and Quebec, it took a shit kick, and then I mean, where I live, I was kind of fortunate. Like, where I'm living at the moment, I'm pretty fortunate. The most cases we had in Chatham-Kent is, like, I think total as of right now with the 4 active cases, I think 168.
Okay.
And one person died. So, and she was like 80.
Right.
She's in her 80s. I mean,
right.
Like, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was in no condition. She was probably in no condition to survive it. And it's terrible. But with everything going on, I think we're gonna beat this thing. I'm fortunate that I'm living in Chatham because we've done really well versus other places that are just. I mean, I was just talking about to my boss yesterday about everything going on in the States, and it's insane. I can't even watch the news anymore.
I can't. I refuse to. I don't know. Like, I think what we listen to and stuff like that can determine the course of our day and can totally take over every other aspect of our lives. And so I am extremely careful about what I listen to. And I don't know. I think, like, you can have one of my favorite mentors, Chris Harder, always says, you know what, find one station, one channel that you trust in, and give yourself like 10 minutes in the morning, maybe 10 minutes at night, just to get like an idea of what's happening, and then shut it off. Like, the rest has to be positive propaganda of stuff that actually moves you forward, right? Because if you just kind of sit and listen to that and that's all that you're getting, it's a really bad cycle to get into.
Well, I mean, you can always just listen to my podcast and just get your your information that way. But unfortunately, I don't tell the news every morning, so that's not going to work out for you.
No, but I know I do have several friends in the States, and like one of them is a trainer out in Arizona, and so I know that they got hit hard again and had to shut stuff down, and it's not good.
No, it's not. Like, I mean, it's no surprise how bad it is in the States. And when I heard about the news, I just, because when I'm at work, like, some my clients, like, they'll watch TV at times, and one of my clients was watching the news, and it had the news on. Sorry, here. He had the news on, and it was about, I think Trump was trying to have some kind of rally, like, for his for his
President.
like his re-election run.
Yeah.
And he had like, I think 6,200 people or something like that. He had about 6,200 people at Mount Rushmore in Wyoming. I think it's in Wyoming, and no masks, no social distancing, and people are stupid enough to go. And I just kind of question, like, what are you thinking? And like, it's like, who's going to be the one to go to Trump and say, cut the shit and get it together, man? Like, your people are going to die. You're not going to get reelected this way by doing this. So I think a lot of people have questioned whether or not Donald Trump's doing it on purpose because he just doesn't want to be reelected. I don't know. It's really it's interesting to know. I know that the states, and it's not just the virus, it's everything that's going on there. They're just, they got a lot of issues, and I feel like what the problem is through the years is that they have an issue, but they never really solve it. They just kind of they push it to the side, and they just kind of push it to the side, and they say, well, we'll worry about it for another day. And it's like, but that's not how problems get solved. Like a couple, I mean, if you have an issue going on within a relationship, you don't say, well, we'll discuss it later. No, you got to work on it together, or it's just going to create more problems. It's the same as states. You keep pushing things aside. Well, okay, maybe everyone will forget about racism in the states, and then another young black man or whoever gets killed by a police officer, unjustified murder, and then it becomes another issue again. Then you see the riots. So either they need to address the problem now, or they're just going to keep having these issues, and people are going to get fed up, and you wonder why people are angry and upset, and we have these demonstrations because people are saying this is enough. Like, what can the government not understand about this?
Right.
And I think it's no secret that the government, I mean, they're always going to be in control. Not everything's going to be fair, but a little bit of compassion for the people. And I mean, I think President Obama was the one president I've seen out there who, did he have to play the game? I think so. But the fact that at least President Obama, he showed compassion, and he showed that feeling he had for the people, and that's what you need. And Donald Trump, he just had no more words for him. But
yeah, and I think personally, I feel like it has to transcend politics and go. Like, there are so many deep, long-standing belief systems that are a part of the United States that have shaped its people, right? And the belief systems that are a part of the country. And they're very, there's opposing belief systems as well, right? But that are, like, firmly entrenched. And it's very hard, no matter what happens, to be able to break those down, right? And it's just very interesting because I personally feel like, and again, it might be very different living out east, but I don't necessarily feel a huge pull in living in Canada, like, towards one belief system to the other, right? There's a whole bunch of different belief systems, and yes, like, you kind of get like a view from the West and a view from the East and stuff like that. But to me, it's not as intense as it is in the States. But if you go down there, like, you are either Democratic or Republican, and that is like, you know that very clearly, right? Oh. And so there's just, until people kind of get away from that, I don't think they're ever going to get anywhere, right? And then I think that you're right in saying with every time that there's a new event, everything does get raised again, because it's the same thing as, like, school shootings, right? Like, you get a school shooting, and then all of a sudden all the stuff about gun licensing and who should have it and how should, right, that comes up again, and then nothing happens.
Exactly.
It's the exact same thing all over again.
Yeah, and that's you said perfectly. Like, that's just a very good one of the very good examples out there about what goes on. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, we have problems in Canada too. There's racism in Canada. We have the same issues. It's just the problem with the States is you see more of it because of obvious problems, right? And you said it best, you know, the country's so divided, and that kind of makes people wonder, is there going to be another civil war? I think it's very possible. One of the guys that coaches me, like I do MMA, and we just had this discussion. We trained together last Thursday, I think, and we kind of discussed about what the Black Lives Matter and how it was kind of started by, it was actually started by a white guy, and how everything's kind of, they think that a lot of these things, like with all the problems with like people having different views on transgender, and you know, you can if you say if you're a 40-year-old man, but you say you're a 20-year-old girl, well, you can be whoever you want, and all these issues going on. It's starting to divide the country apart, and a lot of people aren't living in reality. And with also the racism and everything, the reason why it's becoming such a big issue is because now the officers, and I'm not just talking about officers, but just people in general, are getting caught. They're getting caught doing it. And that's why it's becoming a lot more out there and a lot more advertised, because people are getting caught on camera. Everyone's got a phone. Everyone whips out their phone instead of doing the right thing and stepping in, but they gotta, you know, film and get their views on YouTube, and they'd rather get their views on YouTube than, you know, doing the right thing and stepping in and stopping the racism that needs to be stopped. It's crazy. That, I think for me, that is one of my worst pet peeves when it comes to social media, is people who stand there and say, yeah, that's not okay, that's not okay, right, and film, but they don't step in and do anything. It's like, I know that, yeah, I think there's some that will hesitate, because it's like, well, what do I do? Do I pull the person off and then I get charged with assault? Or do, you know, like, it's kind of like if there's a home invasion, people hesitate because they're scared. Well, at least in Canada, what if I defend myself and I kill the person? Am I going to jail? You know, there's so many things going on in someone's head. But I think the whole idea about with social media is like fights at schools. Someone needs to stop in. Someone needs to come in, jump in, stop the fight, and someone needs to be the better person and say, no, that's enough. Like, what are you doing? You know, pounding someone's head into the concrete, and everyone else is just filming it, throwing on social media. It's disgusting. And I never really had that issue. No, I've never really seen that issue when I was in high school. And I mean, I'm 25, so you know, that's only almost 10 years ago that I graduated. Well, I was about 17, so yeah, but almost 10 years, and I never saw that stuff going on. Yeah, you would have the odd fight and someone would film it, but it wouldn't be anything crazy, right? Like, they keep it on the phone, but now it's like, it's apparent that you have to put everything on social media for everyone to see, and that's someone's, you know, son or daughter, or it's insane. It just pisses me off.
It's people's value systems and what they believe to be most important, right? And again, that's one of those shifts that I don't know. Like, it's the same thing as racism. Like, people just get brought up with the idea that a certain color or this or that means something different, right? It's not something that you totally just know. It's something that you've learned. But I don't know how to change that. And that's such a big thing. I don't know, right? And I mean, that's not just here either. Like, it's not here, it's everywhere. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anyway, I think we went from like, hey, how's your day, to like just downhill, depressing, and all these issues.
Yeah.
But actually, one thing I was thinking about it, because I kind of just mentioning a little bit to you last night, but the whole idea about marijuana and how it can either benefit or deteriorate someone who's an athlete. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh man, you know what? I have no knowledge base on that at all. I do know of people who use certain things, and it does really help them with anxiety and just bringing down that kind of aspect of their life, and also with people who have a lot of insomnia, so a lot of sleep issues.
Yeah.
And then put that back into fitness and health. I think if you aren't sleeping, and if your anxiety is like massively high and it can't be managed, do what you need to do to help yourself, right? Because if you can decrease your cortisol levels, that's going to be great. If you're going to be able to get more sleep, you're going to be that much better in terms of your workout, in terms of your recovery, all of those things. So I have no scientific backing to say that, but I think if you just think about it logically, it would make sense that it could be helpful.
Yeah, when you mentioned the idea about sleeping, I do have a bit of opinion about that. I think um, I'm trying to be careful as much as I can say on here, but when it comes to marijuana and the THC, I looked it up, and I mean, is it credible source? Maybe, maybe not. But I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So when it comes to people that need it for sleep, I think it's great. I mean, yeah, you get a hell of a sleep.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I find it's if you do it right before bed, it's you just feel very like really like drained the next day. You're not drained, but you feel very like almost burnt out, not hungover. I mean, because I can tell you, I know what a hangover feels like, but more, it's just you just feel like you don't really want to do anything. You just feel like you want to kind of chill and relax the next day.
Yeah.
So the reason why so I had to look it up, and apparently the reason for that is, so a lot of people that do it before bed or right before bed, they sometimes will get that effect is because the THC actually affects the sleep cycle or something. I'm not sure what it's called. It's like the sleep ROM, or there's something that you produce when you're sleeping, and the THC can affect that. That's why you find a lot of people that will take edibles, or they'll smoke or eat however they ingest it. But they'll smoke or they eat like a couple hours before bed, because a lot of times they'll normally try to wear off the THC effects,
right?
And then a lot of times it gives you that kind of sleepy kind of feeling. That's what really helps people, and you said with insomnia, can help them recover or rest or whatever. Personally, I do think that it is a very good handy tool for athletes. It's got anti-inflammatory effect. And I think someone who maybe just is just a little bit sore, I think a little bit, and I mean, you don't necessarily have to smoke it either. I mean, you can, especially like the rubbing, like if you rub it on the skin, soaking it in that way is really helpful as well. I know a lot of people who go to my gym who tend to use it, and they'll literally just rub it on while they're at the gym. But mind you, I mean, like they're using very small dosage, and I mean, as long as they're safe and they're not driving, they're not doing anything crazy. But I mean, I think it's a great tool. I know there's been a lot of stories about people who even have a lot of pain or whatever, and I'm not talking about athletes, just people in general who were taking like Percocets and things like that can be highly addictive.
Oh, 100%.
And they go on and they're abusing marijuana. They said, what am I doing using these Percocets, or what am I doing using these painkillers? Like, and they just chuck them out and they say, no, screw that. And they just use marijuana. Now, can marijuana be addictive? I think it varies from person to person, but.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of different things in terms of like certain people have addictive personalities and certain people don't, right? So you really know with that, and that's kind of a scary thing to dive off into, right? Unless you kind of can see patterns in yourself already beforehand, right? In terms of addiction, I don't know, and family history, that whole thing. But yeah, it's never been something that I've personally used. I'm really wary of getting into too many supplements, although I did tell you before, like I know on our last podcast, like I don't personally have any issues with anyone using anabolics or anything like that. it depends on what your goals are, what you want to do. I just think it needs to be managed appropriately. And I do believe that people should be as upfront as they can be if they are using them, just because I mean, to me, it's really, really apparent if someone is using or not, right? So I don't really always like it when people don't own up to it or portray something different, especially when they're selling things like programs and stuff, because what they're showing is not necessarily achievable without the help of those things, right?
Yeah, no, and I respect, honestly, I don't think that steroids is really a good thing. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to destroy your body before, maybe not right in that instance, but as you get older, especially for
Mm-hmm.
guys, I mean, it causes obvious problems. But yeah, it's good. But if you want to be big, okay, great. It will enhance everything. But at the end of the day, people need to realize it's going to have those effects. And I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you still have to put that hard work in. It just gives a little bit of that enhancement of, okay, this is where you would be, but this can get you a little bit bigger, right? But
Yeah. Like,
and yeah, like, I mean, how you mentioned about how people take the steroids, but then they try to sell these programs, and you look at the guys and they're like, oh my god, they're big. Like, I could be
yeah.
like that doing this his program, but then people need to realize probably the guy's taking steroids. If you're questioning it, he's probably taking steroids.
Yeah. And it's very much the same with females. Like, the certain ones that I follow that I actually like really look up to and everything, I just know that if I ever want to get to that level, it's probably going to take a few things, right? And not just like creatine and making sure you have glutamine. Like, there's a lot of stuff that it just has to be very closely monitored and watched, right? And yes, there are absolute side effects. Like, there are certain people who will use them and then are having to use different things hormonally and everything after the fact because they've kind of wrecked their whole system, right? So you really have to think about, do you really need to get to where you want to go? Like, what's your purpose in using them or not?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. I mean, like I say, people want to use it. That's their free will.
Yeah.
You just got to remember, like how you said, there's going to be effects, and um, it's going to do long-term damage to your body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, obviously I'm a huge UFC fan and MMA fan in general. There's a lot of guys who have taken steroids for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously they couldn't do it anymore because USADA came in and then cleaned up the sport, so there were guys who weren't using anabolic steroids and TRT, things like basically TRT is like testosterone, like supplements that just enhances everything. Like a good example, there's this guy, his name Vitor Belfort, and this guy, I mean, he was wrecking everybody, and then you could see through as USADA came in the next couple of years as it progressed, you could see how and I mean, the guy was getting older, but even at 40 years old, most men, if you work hard at it, you can keep your shape. But the guy, as a couple of years after USADA came in, you could see how his body, everything just kind of like shrinked, everything just kind of almost like everything just melted, all his ball like muscles just melted, and you could kind of see like, oh, okay, so as soon as the USADA comes in, then he's totally looking different. So you knew that he was taking steroids and he was on the TRT, and then as he retired, you can see there on his Instagram, I think he went to a testosterone therapy place,
Yeah.
and he went right back on it, and he looks great. I mean, as just if he's just a dad who just wants to look good, yeah,
Right.
yeah, you take that TRT, you go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's sports says you can't use it, you can't use it. So I think I guess if it's for your own personal choice, if you're taking these supplements, these illegal substance, and you're just using it for personal use, that's your choice. And I mean, good for you. If you're looking good, you're putting in the work, great.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to like a violent sport like MMA, I mean, you're dealing with people who you're hitting, you're elbowing, you can seriously hurt someone if you're enhanced in a certain way. And like, we're talking about people's lives here. So I mean, and when it comes to sports, I don't think it should be allowed, and it usually isn't. But personal use, I don't think I don't have a problem with it.
Right.
Like what?
And then that
Like
just kind
what's
of
your
makes,
thoughts on it?
well, I think we have to be honest that like the majority of people in sports are likely using them. So like there's no way that you can be, it's the same thing as like if you want to go do like an IFBB show, like a professional show, you can't do that without the help of, supplements, right? Or
Yeah.
and like, there's just no way you're being silly if you think that you can. And so I think that I don't know. I just wish everyone could be more open about it, because how can you say that they're not? Do you know what I mean? Like it's the playing field isn't fair unless you're using them. You can't do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think if you're being honest that you're taking steroids, that's the more noble thing. And I remember watching the Joe Rogan podcast. He had a guy on there. He was a famous bodybuilder. I just can't think of his name. Like a black guy, a little bit older now.
Mm.
I just can't think of his name. Like everybody knows who he is. I just can't think of his name. But he admitted. He said, "Yeah, I'm taking steroids." But he talked about what it did to him, and
Yeah.
all the trouble that landed him, and that, I think that's the more noble thing, is that if you're taking steroids and you're owning up to it and you're acknowledging like, yeah, I'm taking steroids, I think that's more noble than someone who is the one to pick out on people and say, look, all these guys on steroids, but yeah, it's like, okay, but they are the ones who do not admit that they're on steroids. It's like, why are you lying about it? If you're lying, then obviously either A, you feel ashamed that you have to take it, or B, you're just, you think that you're better than everyone and you don't feel like you have to say anything.
Right. I don't know. I feel like it's like that. It's the known thing that happens that nobody really talks about, right? Or admits to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You originally, when we were talking, you had been working with a coach and you were following a nutrition plan, and you're still following with it even though you weren't really working with that coach anymore. Are you working with someone new? Are you following a plan still, or where are you at with that?
Actually, no. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be going back to him pretty soon. Maybe
Okay.
the first. I think maybe the first week or second week when the gyms open here in Ontario, especially Chatham.
Okay.
It's hard to say. Like, I think either it's gonna be the week when they open, or it's gonna be the week after. I'm not 100% sure. I might by Thursday or Friday. I might contact him and say what's up and see if he's down. The thing is, like, so for us, like, the reason why I stopped was because a lot of things, like, he wasn't just telling me what to eat, but he was taking track of like dimensions, like my muscle dimensions, and making sure I wasn't losing too much like muscle. Like, he wanted to know where I was standing with everything. So it didn't really make sense to be working at home, because I knew I'm going to lose some muscle, and I knew that I was probably going to put on a little bit of fat. I mean, who wasn't? And with everything I had, I knew that, obviously my strength is going to go down a little bit with like my lifts. So obviously all those things that he had sent to me, it wouldn't have made any sense. It just would have been a waste of, I think it would have been a waste of time for him. I think it would have been a waste of time for me to try to keep up with those things, because I just wouldn't have been realistic. And I didn't want to, I felt like I didn't want to really waste his time with that. Like, these are my stats, but obviously we both know they're going to be going down.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I left his training. But now with everything opening back up, I think maybe the first, I don't know, I'm not sure if it's going to be up to him, whether it's going to be the first or second week when the gyms open. I wouldn't be hurt if it was like the second week, just because if I can get that first week to kind of get back into the gym and really experience everything. I'm not too sure what's going to go on, but I'm going to try the first week and see what he thinks, and if the first week makes sense and he's cool with it and he thinks I'm cool with it, and which I am, but second week I wouldn't mind either. I think I think first week I'd probably be okay, but second week I wouldn't mind either. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you getting a lot of clients again, or?
Yeah, actually, I was able to get way more clients over the COVID period. Like one-on-one totally jumped, which was great. And then I kicked off a monthly subscription program as well. So that was really, it was beneficial, right? Because people needed to have stuff that they could do easily at home, with minimal equipment and stuff that doesn't take a lot of time. Like I work mostly with moms, right? And so they need to have something that's not going to take like 2 hours in the gym. So that got rolling. And then, like I said, I just took over a gym space as well. So I'm opening that up too.
Okay.
And that's taking a little bit more time. And I think, I would say like we've kind of had like a soft opening. And so coaches are starting to take their clients back in because our gym spaces are open here. But I'll do like a major grand opening in the fall, just because I think most people during summer are like not as committed, right? Because they're traveling maybe, or their schedule is just a little bit different than typical.
Well, and also, I mean, if we're talking about summer, everyone wants to be at the beach, everyone wants to be.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, you can't really do a whole lot of that this summer.
No.
Depending on where we stand on with like the social gatherings. Yeah, so you were mentioning like you're working with a lot of moms. So I'm assuming like you're probably working with a lot of like the parents where like one has to work and the other has to stay home with the kids, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that would I think that would be really. Thank God I don't have kids right now, because I don't know what I would do.
It's hard. Like you can just see it all over people. Like even again, going back into like the teaching realm, a lot of my teachers are moms, right? And so they were trying to teach their kids at home, program for the kids that they teach at school, and manage their house and like all those things. And really like kids who typically would be at school all day, entertained and educate them as well is a challenge, right? Because they didn't have access to play dates, all of the outings that you could take them on, you couldn't take them on. And it was just, it was overwhelming, I think, for a lot of moms. And I feel like a lot of moms in general just totally put themselves to the side. And that's one of the things, that's why I like to work with them the most, is just to show them it doesn't take a ton to make some big changes, right? Like you don't have to do hours and hours to see things.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you're just starting out, because like anybody that's starting out with fitness, you're going to drop pounds with not little effort, but if you put enough effort into it and you're moving, you're going to drop the pounds. As long as your diet is there, you're going to drop your pounds. Now, I mean, I can't say for people who are a little bit more committed, who have been athletes or in the fitness field for a while. I know it's hard at home. At least for me, it is. I think I'm just doing enough to kind of keep the shape I have.
Right.
But I can see how it'd be hard for single parent. I mean, for me, all I have to worry about is go to work, eat, work out, and then see my girlfriend once or twice a week. So it's. That's my life, so I thank God I don't have kids right now. Not that I can't, I wouldn't shun on people who have kids. I mean, that's just, that's a lot of work, especially if someone's a single parent or someone who has to stay home with kids all the time because the other parent's at work or vice versa. But
it's very different when you go from that. Like, because when I think back to, like when I first used to compete, that was before kids too. And honestly, and I never really found it super challenging. Like, of course it had its usual challenges, right? When you're doing a fit competition and stuff, but if I needed a nap, I could have a nap. If I wanted to, wait to go to the gym till this time, I could wait. You know what I mean? Like it was so flexible. And now when I think like, oh my gosh, like you have to plan everything around your kids, right? And a lot of times my kids train with me. They're in the basement with me if I'm training here. They're at my studio if I'm there. And you just have to kind of make it work, and it won't look as fantastic as what you thought. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to kind of let go of like it being perfect, right? And that's something that I struggled with for a long time, was that everything had to be exactly right and perfect. And if it wasn't like, to the T, then it wasn't worth it, right? So I struggle a lot with that. That's something that's really hard.
Yeah, yeah, and I do see a lot of that when you mention you bring the kids to the gym or the studio or whatever. Yeah, like some of the personal trainers at the gym I used to go to, it was called Performance 360, and one of the actually she was also a personal trainer
Yeah,
at Good Life when we had a Good Life in Chatham. Now it's Fit for Less.
yeah.
Um, but when it was Good Life. But anyway, she has a I think probably 2 or 3 year old boy,
Hmm.
and at the time he was only a baby, and she had to bring him in, and one of the staff, one of
Yeah.
the girls at the front desk, be like, yeah, sure, I'll watch him, and would like hold him, and still kind of be able to do her job, and then mom would be able to personal train whoever for the day, and then take
Hmm.
your son home at the end of the day. So it was it was kind of nice for her that she was able to kind of work things out. And Dave, the manager there, he was really cool about that, or the owner actually, was really cool about all that, and kind of understanding that, hey, yeah, like, yeah, I was there once. I had to, with his kids, I think they're a little bit older, but he's like, yeah, I'm sure he would probably think, yeah, I know how it's like to have young kids, and
Hmm.
so yeah, like I said, I mean, glad to be where I'm at right now. Sometimes I talk about, I've been working so much, I'm busy with all the podcasts, but I gotta realize, like, I'm not even a parent yet, so like, I'm kind of just, what, I just need to kind of be okay where I'm at. So
Well, no, and enjoy it. Like again, and not saying
exactly.
like goes out the window as soon as you have kids and all that, but it is like, and for me, I am a single parent, right? So like, there's no help, right? Well, there's help like if I get my parents might step in, or if I had a babysitter and stuff like that, but there's no just you, right? Like it is. There's those other little people that you always have to keep in your mind, right? And that you're thinking about all the time. And so you just have to enjoy that time and make the most of it and use it the way that you want to, right? Like I wish I would have maybe traveled a little bit more and done stuff like that before I had kids, even though I waited quite a long time. I was 28 when I had my first, and then 32 when I had my second.
Okay.
So yeah, my ex-husband and I waited about 5 years, I think, before we had kids because we weren't sure. So
Okay.
we'll have lots of time to enjoy it because it's just you get to make all of your day.
I don't really think like 28 is that old to have kids. I know there's people like one of my ex girlfriend. I think her aunt and uncle, they had kids at like 38. But
Yeah,
mind you, it was a different situation. Like they met each other at like 35, 36. So
yeah.
yeah, and they still both really wanted kids. So understandable
Oof.
where they're at. But I don't know. Like I guess I mean you look at. I mean, there's always that trend of like celebrities, like celebrities at like 50 are having kids, and it's like, whoa, okay.
Well,
But
you know, and to each his own, right? And everybody's got their way to do things. I just know like the difference for me between when I had my daughter at 28 and then my son at 32, massive difference.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. And again, like, yes, you already have another kid. So then that adds to like your level of like being tired and stuff like that. But I feel like I just had so much more energy younger, right? Like, and there is no right way. And my brother's a doctor as well. And I remember he was always telling me, because I was so unsure about whether or not I wanted them, like, realistically, you can have kids so much later. It's really not that big of a deal. Like, unless you have some very, some people have a hard time just in general to get pregnant. But um, I don't know. Like, I just kind of want to be able to be young still with my kids and with my grandkids. Like,
yeah.
so I would personally want. And I know my one cousin too, she has four, which is amazing to me. And she just wanted to be a mom, right? Like she stayed at home with her kids, and her goal was to have them all done before she was 30, and she did. But it's amazing because her kids are almost all like older than mine, and she's younger than me,
Oh wow.
right? So, and done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, yeah. Realistically, right now, if I had everything together, you know, I think, yeah, I would love to have kids by now, or maybe in a year or two. Obviously,
Yeah.
I know that's not realistic for me. There's things I need to get in order first. before I do that. Like, I think I need to kind of tie the knot with Steph before I do anything. Uh, but as of right now, with everything going on, probably not the greatest idea. And we're not even a year in, so we're both not ready for that. I don't think. Um, but yeah, like I'm, like we've already like Steph and I, we already kind of discussed it. We both want kids.
Yep.
She wants two, and I think two is enough.
Oh yeah.
And like I kind of mentioned this with my mom, so I still live at home, but so everything kind of happening, I was planning on moving out. Like probably right now, if everything wasn't going on, I would have been living in my new condo that I would have bought. But with everything going on and unsure with work, kind of canceled plans. But anyway, that would have been a really good step. And I mean, I'm not trying to say I'm in any rush, but I kind of, I'm 25. I'm looking at the next 5 years, looking at like, well, I don't really want to have kids at like 35. I don't want to be like that older parent.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess reality is like, I guess at any age you can still be young at heart. But I understand the whole idea about you want to be, you still want to be young with the kids, right? Like you want to be that active parent. Whereas my parents are a little bit older when they had me. Like my dad's 60 and my mom is 59.
Mm-hmm.
And so, whereas some of my other friends, like their parents are like 48, 49. It's like, what the? Aren't you like in your 20s? And they're like, yeah. It's like, well, your parents are not even 50. Like, so, so I guess, for me, like I, it's not that I'm in a rush, but yeah, I definitely don't want to be having kids at like 33, 34. Like I want to have them by like 30.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of thinking the same thing. So I'm glad that we're both on the same page. But I guess I guess reality is, I mean, you never want to rush your life because you want to be able to live before you have kids. As I was always told, make sure you travel, make sure you do all the things that you might not be able to do when you have kids. I mean, obviously, it's more expensive. It's more things that you have to worry about, and so I feel like my life is pretty much in order. I'm working enough. Moving out is the next big step. I'm anxious to get out, but I know there's reality of moving out, and I need to be working lots. So right now, that's where I stand. It's not where I want to be, but it's not where I'm always going to be. So
very true. I lived at home all through university, so I didn't move out until I got married, which is crazy to think about. And I think if you can live on your own for a bit first, it's like the best thing you can do. Or with Steph, that's your girlfriend, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's a great thing to do because that was one of the things that I think I missed out on. And I think that it really stretches you in a lot of different ways. I was just so dependent, right? Like I went from living with my parents and then got married, lived with my husband, and I never had to really be on my own or do anything for myself that way. And I would, for my own kids, would love that to happen for them, is just to go out and experience that, because you just learn so much from being on your own.
So when did you get to the point where you had to start like learning that, I guess, or living on your own?
When I separated from my husband, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you find like, did you find it really hard, or was it more like it was just instinct as a mom, or how did you
necessity, right? Like you go and then, okay, I've got, like, I have to keep this house up, right? I mean, and I'm very fortunate that I have a really good job and I have all of those things taken care of. But, I had lived really in like blissful ignorance, right? And had let someone else take control of the bills and take care of all of that stuff. So I never even really thought about it. And so it wasn't hard to do. It was just overwhelming, but it was more because of my own fears around that. Like I had a lot of fear that I wasn't capable of being able to manage it. And it was this like very difficult thing to do. And it's not, right? And one thing that I've learned through the whole thing is that people are so helpful. Like even at the bank, like when I finally got my own mortgage and stuff like that, that is really not as big of a deal as I thought it was, right? And they'll walk you through it. You can ask whatever stupid questions you need to ask, and they're going to help you. And people for the most part are extremely kind, right? And that's one of the things that I've always learned, that even there, one of my biggest things that I think that I've taken away from everything and all the growth that I've gone through is that fear will never go away. So there's all those things that you really want to have. Even with this business that I'm kicking off right now, like I have a ton of fear around it. I've never ran a business, right? Aside from my own personal training and coaching business. Mm-hmm. And so many unknowns. I don't know everything about it, not at all. And I don't have every single step lined up. So I know that that fear is always going to be there. So I'm going to use it to drive me, right? And I'm also going to know that because I've pushed through that, I'm going to be that much better off at the end of everything, right? And I'm going to be that much stronger. I'm going to know that much more. I'll have made that many more connections because I just have walked alongside that fear and let it be a partner with me instead of something that prevented me from doing things.
Right. Sorry.
That's okay.
Like the freaking thing. Drives me nuts. Oh, jeez. Yeah, no, it's everything. I think, and I think for me, that's kind of one thing that right now I have to keep in mind is like the fact that like I look at problems I have right now, or like things or hurdles or obstacles that in my life that I'm going through right now, and I look at like, oh, this is such a big deal. Like I remember when I was talking to my parents about obviously getting the mortgage and buying a condo and everything, and versus buying a house and everything. Like it was really overwhelming for me. Like I'm not one to really get overwhelmed with things. Like I get told something, as long as I understand what's going on, I'm good. But even with that, yeah, like it took a while to kind of know, okay, this is what you need to do. And yeah, it was really really overwhelming subject. But like I said to my dad, I'm like, okay, let's stop talking about it, because right now I'm not going anywhere. But my dad's known to kind of be one. He's like, oh look, no, I found this condo here. This is what you do, and that's just my dad. But and I would be like, no, Dad, I'm done. I'm not. I don't want to keep talking right now. It's not happening. But thank you. Thanks for looking out for me. And yeah, like, for me, one thing I had to learn about myself is that there's things that, yeah, you know what, like, it's going to be overwhelming, but, you listen to people that have done it and just listen what they, because my mom always says, you know what, Luke, like, we've been around on this earth for a long time. You're best to listen to us and just listen to us. And I guess that's one thing, my mom will always kind of talk to me. She's like, your sister, nah, not so much. She went ahead and did her own thing. She doesn't typically listen to us, but you're pretty good, Luke. You're the one that listened, or you're the one that learned. So yeah. I typically tease my sister about that. She's gonna be 30, and she seems like she's kind of had everything in order right now, and but she was kind of always the one. She was the first child, right? So she was the one that made the mistakes, and then I was the smart one to kind of watch what she was doing. So she's always like, "Oh, you always let Luke get away with everything." I was like, "No," because I was the smart one to learn from mistakes and learn that no, you listen to the parents because they know what they're talking about. So
right, interesting. Yeah, and I would say too, for me, I never left home. Like I've always lived in the same city, went to university in the same city. I think I told you that in the last podcast. I can't remember for sure, but my little brother, who's 4 years younger than me, he did his undergrad here and then moved out east for medical school.
Okay.
And that was one of the best things that he could have done. So in so many ways, I feel like he's learned so many more lessons and gotten so much further ahead because he's taken those chances and he's had to do it, right? Like when you stay within that zone and you never have to make those big moves, you don't ever change, right? Or if you do change, you do it really slowly, and you don't even really know what's out there. And so I think that it's really important to take those chances and opportunities because you're gonna grow from it regardless, right? So I think that's one of the best things. So even the younger kids, but it's funny how the siblings will watch each other and see what they do, right?
Yeah, no, and I think you're probably gonna find that, like, one, obviously, if you say that your daughter is the oldest, so she might do things that she'll get in trouble for, or just things, just life lessons, right?
Yeah.
But then you'll watch the other one, and I'm sure he will watch. He's smart enough. He will watch her and make those mistakes. Like, probably shouldn't do that, or I probably should listen to mom on that one. So,
right.
Yeah.
And it's funny though how your kids, how I don't know what you and your sister are like in terms of personalities. Like I'm much more quiet and reserved, right? Whereas my brother is much more outgoing, and it totally doesn't mind being front and center. And my kids are kind of like that too. My daughter is more like me, very quiet. And then my son is like as rambunctious and loud as they come, right? So it'll be very interesting to see what they'll do, right? I don't know.
Yeah, no, my sister and I, we were always close growing up.
Yeah. How close in age are you guys?
Well, obviously, I'm 25 and she's 29, so
Oh.
About 4 years, depending. Yeah, so she's born in 1990. I'm 94, so yeah, about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And but the thing is, like, now it doesn't feel like so much an age gap. Like, we kind of feel like, I kind of say to her, like, yeah, we're in the same zone. We get each other, right? Both, our frontal lobes are fully developed. Like, we both know what goes on in life. We both get life. But I still learn from her. She's always got to have more life experience over me. But no, we've always typically been the same. As you find siblings will be different, which we are. Oh my gosh, I gotta get water after this. But no, we typically we're typically kind of the same in a way. But the difference is my sister a little bit. She has a hard. I think, my opinion, she typically has a hard time making friends, and it's not so much she's people don't like her. She's not one to be able to go out. Like, if we dropped her in the middle of nowhere, she would have a hard time making friends. Me, you drop me in nowhere, probably make friends in about 5-10 minutes.
Interesting.
I've always been one to be social, and she's social as well. She's not quiet by any means, but she's not one to just go out and be able to talk to people. I can just do it. I can go out and be like, hey, how's it going? I can make friends with anybody. Like, so yeah, so I think that's the biggest difference with her and I now. That's one of the biggest difference. The other big difference is she's one to be able to think outside the box. I've always been one to be a black and white thinker. I always had that issue as a kid, so that's always something I've had to work on. Yeah, but we've always been one to. We both, I think, and I think it kind of helps because our whole family. We call it the Kelly tradition because, my dad is a social worker. My mom's a social worker. My sister's a social worker. I'm a social worker. So it's kind of a family tradition. And like my dad works for community living. My mom did work for community living like a long time ago when she was much younger. My sister is a full-time in community living in Windsor, Ontario. And then I work for community living in Chatham as well as my dad. So I think the family influence kind of helps out with that. So
that is really interesting that you guys are all in the same line of work.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, like, you think you would typically find a family where, one parent's this, one parent's that, and maybe one of the kids might take that line of work because that's what mom and dad do, and then the other one will be completely different. But no, we all seem to want to get in that field. Yeah.
I like that. I think it's very interesting because, and I find like for me, I would say, I don't even know with my family when I'm thinking about it. My mom is a nurse and my brother's a doctor, so they kind of lined up in the same thing. And there's no way that I would ever go anywhere near the medical field. I don't even know how people do it. I hate even walking into a hospital. My dad, you know what though? My dad has always, fitness is not his line of work. That's always been the side passion. And there's been like a family gym and that sort of thing. But, so I followed suit that way, but he was in law enforcement. So I'm the only educator, right, in terms of that. And there's really no educators in my family at all. So I was the first one to really do that.
Yeah, but I mean, at least with your family, you all have some kind of strength that you all can talk about. So I mean, there's you know, you're the one that can educate. You have your
Mhm.
dad that's the one that knows a lot about security and policing. And then you have your mom nursing,
Nurse, yeah, I know.
nurse,
Yeah,
be a nurse, and then you have your brother that's a doctor. So I mean, you kind of have all frontline workers in a way. I guess teaching that's frontline, but yeah, you kind of have every kind of core work in that.
I guess I never thought about that. Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're actually coming up on time here.
Sure.
I was like rambling and stuff, but I just want to thank you for coming on again. It's always a pleasure talking with you. Always getting ideas from you and inspiration for sure.
Perfect. Thank you. No, thanks for having me on again. And if we do it again too, we can delve more into like fitness, nutrition, that sort of thing too, if you want to get more into that.
I know, yeah, I was meaning to get into that, but then I just got in this whole mindset about all the news and
It's interesting. No, I love where it went. That was very different. And it's not something that I would typically go into. Like politics is not my, like I said, I really do turn that off because it's, I don't know, you just get caught up in the negativity a little bit. I'm not saying you, but in general, it can happen very quickly. But I love talking about motivation, mindset, and that sort of thing too. So we can always dive into that more as well.
absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Thanks so much for adjusting the time too. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay.
Take care and stay cool.